Okay, so in this video, we're going to be looking at an exam type question or just an examples for you to understand how you would approach your ordinary share capital and your retained income notes in the exam, right? So let's read and then answer the questions. So here it's telling us that you are provided with the information for the financial year ended 28 February 2021. So I did explain in my previous videos why it is important to know our year end, and let's just draw our year end and then you'll see when we answer the questions why it is important to understand when our year ends and when it starts. So if your year ended in February, it's going to start on the 1st of March 2020. So you just go 1 month forward and 1 year back. Okay, so what are we required to do? We are required to prepare for the financial year ended 28 February 2021. We are required to prepare the ordinary share capital and the retained income note. So we're going to start with the ordinary share capital note, right? So here's our ordinary share capital note. So the first thing that we need to fill in our ordinary share capital note is that we need to go and find out what the authorized share capital of this business is, right? So the authorized share capital, as I had explained, it is merely the maximum amount of shares that the business is allowed to issue, right? So they can never sell more than those amount of shares. So let's go and look for that in our question. So we can see that in information B, under additional information, they're telling us that the authorized share capital is 2 million shares. So we go and input 2 million shares. So this means that the business can never sell more than 2 million shares. They can only sell up until 2 million shares. Right, the next thing that we need to find is our shares issued at the beginning of the year, right? And if we go to our information, we can see that they gave us the balances when on February 2021 and 2020. So we know that our year ends on February 2021. So any balance that they gave me in February 2021 is my closing or my balance at the end. And then my year begins on the 1st of March 2020. But then remember, in accounting, right, whatever you have at the end of last year, 28 Feb 2020, right, this is the end of our previous year, will be what will be our opening balance in the new year. So whatever balance we had over here would be our opening balance on the 1st of March 2020. So this balance here on the 28th of Feb 2020 would be our opening balance on the 1st of March. So this would be our opening balances or our balances at the beginning. So now we know that they've given us, remember, balances are random amounts, right? So now we can see, okay, they gave us the random amounts, the balances at the beginning and at the end of the year. So I can go and put that into my notes, right, for my words, ordinary share capital. So my balance at the beginning is 6,020,000. So I can go and put that here. My random amount 6,020,000, and then my balance at the end is what, 8,960,000. So I can go and put that there, 8,960,000, right? Okay, then what else can we go and input? Let's read our information. So under information B, they told us that on the 1st of March 2020, which is the beginning of the year, we had 1 million shares in issue. So I can go here to my balance at the beginning, my issued at the beginning, 1 million shares at the beginning of the year. So this means that at the beginning of the year, I sold 1 million shares and I got paid a total of 6,020,000 rands from those people that I sold the shares to. So if I want to find out how much is each share, how much did the company charge per share, I take the 6,020,000 divided by what? Divided by the 1 million shares, and that would give me at 6 rand 2 cents per share. So that is how much was charged per share, right, to get that 6,020,000 rands. Then what else do we have? What's the next thing that we have? They told us that on the 1st of April, they're talking about dividends, right? But we don't need to worry about dividends now. We only worry about it when we do the retained income note. So for my ordinary share capital note, let's skip that. Then they told me that on the 1st of May 2020, new shares were issued at a price of 5 Rand per share. So the 1st of May 2020 is somewhere during our year, right? So this is shares issued during the year. So they didn't tell me how many shares, they didn't tell me how much I got in total for those shares. What they told me is just that they were issued at 5 Rand per share, right? So I'm just going to put that at 5 Rand per share over there because that's the only information I have for my during. Then I move on because that's the only thing I can fill in. So let's move on and see what else they've said. They said on the 31st of Jan 2021, right, 100,000 shares was repurchased at 25% above the average price. These shares qualify for the final dividends and the relevant entries have not been made, right? Okay, so let's go and fill in. 100,000 shares were repurchased. So under my buyback, I put the 100,000 shares. Remember, your buyback is always in brackets, right? It's always a minus amount. 100,000 shares. Did they tell me how much per share? No. Did they tell me how much how much I paid for the repurchase? They did, but they didn't tell me what. Remember what goes to my ordinary share? When I have a buyback, right, what will go to my ordinary share? There's the total amount. Okay, before I even put that bracket, when I have a buyback, this is what happens, right? I told you that you have a total amount that you pay for the buyback, and that total amount is split between what? It's split between average price and your price above average. Price above average, right? So the price above average plus your average price gives you your total, right? So my average price is the one that I use for my ordinary share capital notes, and the price above average is the one that I use for my retained income notes. Then when we get to cash flow statement, you take the total to your cash flow statement, right? So in this case, what do I need? I'm preparing the ordinary share capital note, right? So I need the average price for my buyback. So did they give me the average price in the question? They didn't give me. They told me that they were repurchased at 25% above the average share price. But I don't know what the average share price is, right? So let's just continue and see what else can I fill in, and then see if I can calculate the average share price based on the other information that I've been given. So on the 28th of Feb 2021, they said that this is the end of the year, right? They said that 80% of the shares were in issue. So of this 2 million shares that the company is allowed to issue, at the end of the year, they had issued how many? 80% of the 2 million. So at the end of the year, 80% times the 2 million, right? So I forgot to erase this. 80% at the end of the year, right? Okay, so let's put that there. All right, let's continue. So at the end of the year, the number of shares that have been issued are 80% of the 2 million. And if you say 2 million times 80%, you'd get 1,600,000 shares at the end of the year, right? Shares. So now, can you see? Remember I told you that your balance at the end is the sum of everything that's on top, right? So we can see that, oh, I was not supposed to erase that. Remember, where did we find that? We found that here, 8,960,000. So this is fine. So at the end, I can also get my share price per share. I can take the 8,960,000 divided by the 1,600,000 to give me at 5 Rand 60 per share at the end of the year, right? So now what can I do? I taught you that your balance at the end is the sum of everything that's on top, right? So it's a total. So you take your balance at the beginning, right? You add your during, you minus your what? Your shares repurchased. This gives you your balance at the end. So we can see that in this equation, I only have one unknown, which is my issue during the year, right? And we know that in an equation, if you have everything except for one thing, we can solve for that one thing that we don't know, right? So I'm going to say 1 million, right, at the beginning, plus the during. Remember, I don't know the during, so I just put X, minus my 100,000 must give me my balance at the end. Then I solve for X, and you solve for X by simply moving all the numbers to the other side. So it's 1,600,000 minus 1 million, because it's now moving to the other side, plus 100,000. And what does this give me? This gives me 700,000 shares. So my amount issued during the year is 700,000 shares, right? And now to get my total Rand amount, I say 700,000 times 5 times 5 Rand, which is going to give me 500,000. Then on this side, what am I missing? On this side, I'm missing the shares repurchased, the rand amount for my shares repurchased. And can you also see, still the same principle, your end is the subtotal of everything on top, right? So it's your balance at the beginning plus your during minus your buyback to give you a balance at the end. So the only thing that I don't know in this equation is my what? Is my buyback amount. So I can solve for that because it's my only unknown and I have everything else. So now I'm going to say, to figure out my buyback amount, I'm going to take the 1,600,000 plus my 3,500,000 minus my buyback, which I don't know, which is X, should give me 8,960,000, which is my balance at the end. Then I solve for X. X is going to be 8,960,000 minus 1,600,000, right? Then minus 3,500,000. And the answer you'd get there is a negative 560,000. And it's good because our buyback is a negative amount. So minus 560,000. So now can you see, I can find my average price or my price per share for my buyback, which is going to be 560,000 divided by 100,000, which is going to be at 5 rand 60. Then I have completed my what? I have completed my ordinary share capital note. So there's different ways in which they assess the ordinary share capital. In this case, we can see that I taught you how to calculate the average price, right? But in this case, you didn't have to go and calculate it the way that I taught you. You had to fill in all the information and then try and work around your balances, right? Because we know that if I have my balance at the end and I have everything else except for one thing, I can solve for that unknown, right? So that's how we would have attempted this ordinary share capital note. Then remember that because now I know that my average price is 5 rand 60, right? It will come here as 5 rand 60. And then what is my price above average? They told me that this was repurchased at 25% above the average price. So my price above average, or my total, right, is what I purchased it for. And they said I purchased it for 25% above my average price. So how much did I pay in total for the buyback? I paid 5 rand 60 plus 25% above the 5 rand 60. So times 25%. 25%, right? So it's the 5 rand 60 and the 25% above 5 rand 60. Does that make sense? Because if they said above that price, it means that it's that price plus whatever that they're saying is above, which is 25% of that price. So the total amount that I paid for the buyback would be what? It would be 7 rands, right? So I paid a total of 7 rands for this buyback. Then remember, if my total that I paid is 7 rand and my average price is 5 rand 60, then how much is going to my retained income? What's going to my retained income is what? 1 rand 40 cents. Because remember, your average plus your price above average must give you your total, right? So if my total is 7 and my average price is 5 rand 60, it's 7 minus 5 rand 60 to give me the 1 rand 40. So when I prepare my retained income note, what I'm going to take to my retained income note for my buyback is the 1 rand 40. So we'll deal with the retained income notes in the next video.